The quality of the strings of the guitar is really important to the feel and to the sound. Now the strings on this guitar in particular feel a little bit dirty. I can see a bit of corrosion along the strings. It actually sounds quite dull, and you actually, if you listen, you get a bit of string torque in between the notes, which means that it's due for a string change, and that's what we're going to do today. So what I'm doing here is just loosening each string before I cut it. This is really important to do because you don't want to cut strings before you take the tension off, because it can actually damage the neck of the guitar. Quick tip, one of these string winders is really inexpensive, but it can save a lot of heartache when restringing your guitars. It's a lot faster and a lot easier on your fingers too. Now that we've taken the tension off the strings, I can cut through each string using a pair of side cutters. What I'm doing here is cutting through each string while resting my palm on the fretboard so the strings don't go flying off and damage the guitar. Once I've cut through the strings, I'm going to take the strings up the machine head end and start to unwind each string around each tuning peg. Sometimes this can be a little bit tricky, particularly if the person who put these strings on didn't do a very good job. And finally, I'm going to take off the strings down this end using a pair of side cutters and gently rocking those bridge pins out of place. It's important to take off any jewelry in this process. Don't worry, my wife, still love you. Just so you don't damage the top of the guitar. So I'm just going to use the side cutters here to lever off my left hand, just like that. Gently grab the bridge pin, not too hard or you might damage it, or you might damage the top of the bridge. And once we get the last one out, we simply pull the strings out and now we're ready to put on a fresh set. Now if it's one thing I know, it's restringing guitars. So I like to start with the thickest string first, just because it's easier to work from the top to the bottom. Now, when you get your new string, unravel it like this. So you put the ball end in the hole and then the bridge pin over the top, pressing down at the same time pulling up on the string. The string should be able to sit there and not move as you press the bridge pin all the way in, just like that. If you don't keep tension on the string, the ball end can actually end up at the end of the bridge pin like that inside the sound hole, but you actually want the ball end to pull up and sit underneath the bridge. Now the bridge pin's installed down this end, we move to the headstock end and wrap it around the machine head. I'm going to place the string in the nut slot, and then because it's the thicker string, I'm only going to do 1.5 to 2 windings around this machine head post like this. Now when you wrap it around, make sure that you go up when you wind it rather than over itself or down, because when you've done enough windings, you want to push down that thread and put the excess string through on top of that string, pull it through tight, because then the string can't come up over the tuning peg. So now we're going to put some tension on this string by tightening this tuning peg here. It doesn't need to be fully in tune yet, but we're just going to put some tension on the string. And this is where you'll find out if you've installed the bridge pin correctly, because when you tighten it up, the bridge pin shouldn't pop out. If it does pop out, it means it wasn't installed correctly. Now we're ready to move on to the next strings. As we go through each string, as the strings get thinner, you want to make sure that you apply more windings around the machine head so they don't slip. By the end of the strings, the first string here, the thinnest one, should have 4 or 5 wraps around the tuning peg. To see how many wraps each string should have, check out the description. Now we've got a new set of strings on this guitar. They're not in tune, but they've got tension on them. We need to cut the excess strings here on the machine heads. So here's a really important part. You want to use a set of side cutters, but you want to be really careful not to damage the top of the guitar, not to cut the string too close and damage the machine head or the other parts of the string. And you don't want to leave too much string on there, or you might catch your finger on it or on a piece of clothing. I recommend coming in from the top so that you don't damage the guitar here. Coming from the top, cut as close as you can to the machine head, just like that. Now we're going to repeat this process for each of the strings, making sure to come in from the top each time. So don't forget to throw these excess bits of string out, and now we can start tuning the guitar. Now this guitar is going to look better, sound better, and feel better. And if you have any questions about anything you've seen in this video, contact us via Facebook Messenger.